The morning sky above Anime Academy was a strange swirl of blue and gold, as if the universe couldn't decide what kind of anime it wanted to be. A single cherry blossom tree stood in the courtyard, its petals sparkling unnaturally, maybe powered by some leftover chakra or ki. At exactly 8 a.m., the front gates creaked open. Out of the shimmering air stepped the strangest lineup of students the world had ever seen. Naruto Uzumaki was the first to arrive, his bright orange jumpsuit clashing beautifully with the cherry blossoms. Whoa! So this is Anime Academy, believe it! He shouted, hands on his hips. Behind him, Tanjiro Kamado bowed politely to the gate. Thank you for letting me attend, he said earnestly. To the gate. Bakugo stomped past both of them, sparks already popping from his palms. TCH, what's this, some kind of loser daycare? Then from the side a straw hat appeared. Luffy strolled in, grinning. Daycare? Sounds great. You guys got meat? Tanjiro blinked. We just got here. I don't think... Meat! Luffy shouted, sprinting toward the cafeteria sign before the doors had even opened. From the shadows of the gate, Levi Ackerman sighed. It's too early for this. Mikasa walked quietly beside him, scarf fluttering. They're... energetic. Levi glanced sideways. Energetic is one word. Idiotic is better, and above them all, floating slightly off the ground with an obnoxious grin, was their homeroom teacher, Gojo Satoru. Good morning, my adorable disasters, he announced, his voice echoing across the campus. Welcome to Anime Academy, the only school crazy enough to accept all of you. His blindfold shimmered as he pointed dramatically at the students below. I'm your teacher, Gojo Satoru, strongest, coolest, and let's be honest, most beautiful man in existence. Bakugo rolled his eyes. You're even more full of yourself than All Might. Ah, Bakugo, Gojo said, lowering himself to eye level. You remind me of me, but louder. And with worse hair. Bakugo's hands flared instantly. What did you say? Gojo raised one finger. Detention. What? Class hasn't even started. Exactly, Gojo said smugly. You're setting a new record. Inside the classroom, chaos unfolded faster than a shonen battle. Luffy was sitting upside down in his chair, munching on something that suspiciously looked like Gojo's lunch. Naruto was carving his name on the desk. Naruto was here, future Hokage. Deku had already taken notes for a test that didn't exist yet. Light Yagami sat near the window, glaring at everyone. Idiots. Surrounded by idiots. He opened his notebook. On the first page was written, Class List Possible Elimination Order. Levi walked past, caught a glimpse, and muttered, Pathetic. Excuse me? Light said sharply. Levi didn't even look back. If you want to kill people, start with the loud ones. You'll thank me later. Gojo clapped his hands, instantly restoring order or something close to it. Alright, my students. Let's do introductions. He pointed at Naruto. You first, Sunshine. Naruto leapt up, fists clenched. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage. And I never go back on my word, that's my ninja way. The class stared. Luffy raised his hand. What's a Hokage? Can you eat it? No, you can't eat I. Then I don't care, Luffy said simply, flopping back in his seat. Deku went next, stumbling to his feet. Hi. I'm Izuku Midoriya, but you can call me Deku. My quirk is... Bakugo interrupted with a snort. Your quirk is being a nerd. Ka-chan, please. Gojo laughed. Excellent energy. Next. Light stood smoothly, eyes gleaming. Light Yagami. I believe in justice and order. And people who chew loudly should be punished. Luffy paused mid-bite. Huh? Nothing, Light said, closing his notebook slowly. Gojo tilted his head. Remind me to keep an eye on you. Tanjiro rose politely. I'm Tanjiro Kamado. I fight demons, but I also like to cook and help people. That's adorable, Gojo said. Finally, a student who won't destroy the classroom. A loud explosion rocked the room. Bakugo! Gojo yelled. It wasn't me. It was my temper. By lunchtime, peace had given up entirely. Naruto and Luffy were fighting over the last pork bun in the cafeteria. It's mine! Naruto shouted, clutching the tray. No way, I saw it first. Luffy argued, stretching his arm across the table. It's not about seeing it, it's about destiny. Bakugo solved the debate by blowing up the tray. Now nobody eats it, everyone groaned. Deku sighed, taking notes again. This is exactly how villains form. Levi sat in the corner, silently drinking tea. If this continues, I'll need bleach. Mikasa looked over at him. We don't have bleach here. Levi took a slow sip. Then I'll make some. Meanwhile, Tanjiro was trying to mediate between the pork bun warlords. You both can share. There's enough for everyone. Luffy blinked. Share? Naruto looked equally puzzled. What's that? Gojo appeared behind them, teleporting a bento box onto the table. Problem solved. I made extra. Everyone gasped. You cooked? Deku asked. Gojo pushed up his blindfold. Of course. I'm not just beautiful and strong, I'm domestic. Luffy sniffed the box. It smells amazing. Gojo grinned. It's infinity rice, it never ends, no matter how much you eat. 5 minutes later, the box was empty. Gojo stared. THA's impossible. Luffy wiped his mouth. Not for me. The afternoon brought PE class, or what passed for it at Anime Academy. Gojo stood on the training field, his sunglasses gleaming under the sun. Alright class, today's simple. You'll spar in pairs. Try not to destroy the planet. He looked around at the chaotic assortment of students. First up, Naruto versus Bakugo. Bakugo grinned savagely, his palms crackling with tiny explosions. Finally, some real action. Across from him, Naruto cracked his knuckles, a confident grin spreading across his face. I won't lose, believe it. 5 seconds later, the entire field was on fire. Smoke billowed into the sky, thick and black. Naruto's Rasengan had clashed with Bakugo's howitzer impact, and the resulting shockwave had, well, redecorated the landscape. Amid the chaos, Tanjiro, ever the responsible one, ran around trying to help everyone and put out the smaller fires with his water-breathing techniques. Levi, on the other hand, stood perfectly still in the middle of the mayhem, his arms crossed. Not a single speck of dust or ash dared to touch his pristine uniform. He looked utterly unimpressed. Gojo, unfazed, simply snapped his fingers. A wave of blue energy washed over the field, and in an instant, every crater was filled. Every blade of grass was back in place, and the smoke vanished. The training ground was perfectly restored. Alright, next. Luffy versus Deku. Deku gulped, his face turning pale. He started muttering frantically. Okay, his quirk is Gum Gum, a paramecia-type devil fruit, giving his body the properties of rubber. That means he's highly resistant to blunt force trauma, which is my primary method of attack. I'll need to use air pressure or find a way to circumvent his elasticity. Maybe if I use one for all full cowling at 20% and focus on speed and grapple? Luffy just grinned his signature wide grin. Don't worry. I'll go easy on you. He didn't. 10 seconds later, Deku was a green and white speck soaring through the atmosphere, a victim of a Gum Gum rocket that had sent him straight into low orbit. From the sidelines, sitting under a shady tree, Light Yagami scribbled furiously in a small black notebook. Note to self, never, under any circumstances, get into a physical fight with the rubber one. His abilities defy conventional physics. Potential threat level, catastrophic, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The exhausted class dragged themselves back into the homeroom. Most of them anyway. Deku was still re-entering the atmosphere. Gojo leaned casually on his desk, a playful smile on his face. Well, that was a productive first day. No one died, physically at least. That's a win in my book. The classroom was a picture of controlled chaos. Naruto was already fast asleep, snoring loudly on his desk. Luffy, having found a hidden stash of meat, was still eating, his cheeks puffed out like a chipmunk. Bakugo was muttering under his breath, plotting new and more creative ways to cause explosions. Levi looked like he was one more chaotic event away from resigning from existence itself. Light was still plotting, his eyes glinting with a dangerous intelligence. Tanjiro, despite the absurdity of it all, wore a gentle, tired smile. And Deku, who had finally landed safely thanks to a well-timed float, was already back to his notebook trying to calculate the power levels he'd just witnessed. Gojo chuckled to himself. What a lovely bunch of disasters, he turned toward the chalkboard, a piece of chalk materializing in his hand. Now for the best part of the day, homework. He wrote in big, elegant letters, write a 500-word essay on what it means to be an anime hero. He turned back to the class. Due tomorrow. The room erupted. What? Homework? On the first day? I can't even write 50 words, let alone 500. Is murder an option to get out of this? Bakugo snarled. Gojo just smiled beneath his blindfold. See you tomorrow, my little legends. And with that, He vanished in a shimmer of blue light, leaving behind a classroom overflowing with chaos and disbelief. For a moment there was silence. Then Naruto groaned, lifting his head from his desk. "This school's crazy." Luffy, swallowing a giant piece of meat, grinned. "I like it here, it's fun." Light muttered to his notebook. "They'll all pay for this indignity." Levi sighed, a sound filled with the weight of cleaning up after 1,000 titans. "I miss the titans," Deku, still writing, whispered to himself. "But what is the infinity rice recipe? Is it a support item? A power-up? I need more data." Tanjiro smiled warmly at all of them. "No matter how different we are, or what worlds we come from, we're classmates now. We should try to get along." A peaceful silence filled the room. It was a nice thought. It lasted for exactly 3 seconds. "Who ate my spicy curry rice ball?" Bakugo's roar shattered the calm. The explosion that followed was so immense, so bright, that it could probably be seen from space. Meanwhile, outside, standing on the academy roof, Gojo looked down at the glowing schoolyard below, the light from Bakugo's latest tantrum illuminating his face. His blindfold fluttered in the night breeze. He chuckled softly. "They're insane. Every single one of them." A calm, deep voice spoke from behind him. "And you're the one who gathered them." Gojo didn't turn around. He knew who it was, of course. The world's strongest class deserves the world's strongest teacher. The unseen figure stepped out of the shadows, their presence both calm and ominous. "Then let's see how long they last." Before the real lessons begin, Gojo's smile widened faintly. "Oh, I'm counting on it." The camera pans up to the night sky, where countless stars swirl together like shimmering portals, hinting that the walls between worlds were thinner than anyone had ever realized. And so began the strangest, loudest, and most chaotic school year in all of history. To be continued. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think will happen next? Which 2 characters do you want to see interact in the next episode? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this crossover madness, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss part 2. See you next time.